This is Arumugam. I hope you're all have the idea about the moving charges and magnetism. Here I am coming with another video that is frequently asked question and answers. Maybe most of the students you know the concept, but you do not know how to write the correct answer for the question. Clear? So how to write correct answer for the question in board exam, and also not only in board exam, you can improve your knowledge from the skill question. So they will ask different type of questions, skill questions, but you do not know how to write the answer. You know the answer, but you do not know how to write. Clear? Based on the idea, I prepare this video for lesson 3, that is moving charges and magnetism. See, you can see the mind map or total idea about the lesson moving charges and magnetism. Moving charges and magnetism. See, in this lesson, I hope you're all have the idea. What is that? Suppose a charge is in motion, what happened? That is a moving charges. Charges in motion is nothing but, simply you can call it as current. Current is nothing but what is it? Moving charges. So when the charge in motion, what happened? That is a thing. According to Weierstrass statement, the current carrying conductor will produce a magnetic field. Okay, the charge move in a conductor, they produce a magnetic field. Okay, next question, how do we calculate the magnetic field? How do we calculate the magnetic field or field strength? Right. So this question arises, and many scientists started to find out the answer. Finally, Biot-Savart, the scientists are find out the answer for the question. How do we calculate the magnetic induction for the current carrying conductor? After that, based on the concept, they will extend to the Ampere circuit law. After that, okay, the charge move in a conductor that produces a magnetic field. Suppose a charge, if any charge move in the magnetic field, what will happen? Next question. The charge move in the magnetic field, what happened? That experience a force that was given by Lorentz. So Lorentz force, this force is called a Lorentz force. When a charge move in a magnetic field, that experience a force. This is a Lorentz force. Based on the concept, they design the device, that is cyclotron. Cyclotron is a device which is used to accelerate the charges. What is the need for accelerate the charge? Yes. If familiar in nuclear physics, the fast moving charges are used to bombard the target. So for the accelerated charges are mainly used for nuclear reactions. Nuclear fission reactions. Okay, based on the concept, when the current move in a current carrying conductor placed in a magnetic field, that experience a force. Right. Based on the concept, they design another one device, that is a moving coil galvanometer. And finally they discuss in your syllabus, what is that? conversion of galvanometer, that is galvanometer into voltmeter, galvanometer into ammeter. So these are the things discussed in your syllabus. Okay, I hope you this picture will give you full idea about the lesson. Okay, okay, you can go for the question. Moving charge and magnetism, right? See, here I discuss only whatever the question asked in board, clear, and I discuss the answer. See, first one, write the expression in vector form for the Lorentz magnetic force F due to a charge moving with a velocity v in a magnetic field B. What is the direction of magnetic force? So very simple, they ask only the expression for the force experienced by a charge. But mainly they asked what is it? What is the direction of magnetic force? Direction of magnetic force. So that is given by F vector equal to Q into V vector cross B vector. You should write the vector. Why? Because they ask only direction. Don't write F equal to Q into V cross B. That is a magnitude. Got it? So this is a direction. And second thing, don't put vector for the Q. That is a charge is a magnitude. You know that charge is a scalar quantity that have only magnitude, no direction. So F vector equal to Q into V vector cross B vector. The direction of magnetic force is perpendicular to the plane containing velocity and magnetic field vectors. Okay. Next one, under what condition is the force acting on a charge moving through a uniform magnetic field maximum? It's also a very interesting question. See, now only we discussed what's the formula, F equal to Q into V cross B. But here the question is just the extended from the first one. At what condition the force acting on a charge moving through a uniform magnetic field maximum? See, you know the formula in max, A cross B equal to AB sin theta, but here V cross B is nothing but VB sin theta. They ask only maximum value. When will you get maximum value? Sin theta means what's that? When you have a theta equal to 90, that will be maximum. Am I right? 1. So here also the same idea I can apply. When the theta is 90, when the theta is 90, the force will be maximum. Okay, what's the meaning of theta equal to 90? That means perpendicular. 90 is nothing but that, perpendicular. So for the question, what's the answer? When it moves perpendicular to the direction. And they asked only condition, correct? So we can tell that F equal to, what's that? BQV sin theta. So straight away we can write when it moves, charge move perpendicular to the magnetic field. That is the thing. Perpendicular means what's that? The charge direction of moving charge is perpendicular to magnetic field. Got it? So finally you can write when means the charge, it moves perpendicular to the direction of the magnetic field. Why? Because F equal to BQV sin theta, where theta equal to 90 degree, or F equal to F max, maximum value, that is BQV. And next one, under what condition is the force acting on a charge moving through a uniform magnetic field minimum? It's just extended from the second one. Maximum we calculated. When will you get the minimum? Up just opposite to the first case. What is that? See, when theta equal to 90, that is a maximum. When theta equal to 0, what happened? The magnitude will be 0. Am I right? Or minimum. So here theta equal to 0. That's all. Very simple. For this question, when it moves parallel, the first case perpendicular, but here this is parallel are anti-parallel to the direction of the magnetic field. So F equal to BQE sin theta, where theta equal to 0 or theta equal to 180. Both cases parallel or anti-parallel. So F equal to 0. That at that condition the charge experience force is minimum in the magnetic field. Okay, next one, state the condition under which a charged particle moving with a velocity v goes undeflected in a magnetic field B. What's the question? Condition under which the charged particle moving with a velocity v goes undeflected in a magnetic field B. What's the condition? You know the formula, F equal to Q into V cross B. So the charge will go undeflected means, what's the meaning? Undeflected is nothing but force will be 0. There is no force is acted on the charge. So F should be 0. If V is a parallel or anti-parallel to B, what happened? That is theta equal to 0 or 180 degree. The same question they are asked in different way. See, already we discussed, we know that, what's that? Minimum force is nothing but undeflected. See, in the first question they use the word minimum force. What's the condition? But here undeflected. Undeflected is the same condition. What's that? No force acted. No force means the force should be a minimum value. Am I right? So what's the condition of minimum value of the force acted on the charge? That is theta equal to 0 or 180. They are the same question, but they are asked in different way. This is the way they are asking. You know the answer, but they are asking in different way. Next one, Biot-Savart law, and express this law in vector form. Biot-Savart law, it states that the magnetic field, I told already, Biot-Savart law is used to calculate the magnetic induction. Right. Okay, it says that the magnetic field dB due to current element IDL at a point having a position vector R relative to the current element is found to depend. What's that? The induction or magnetic field dB is directly proportional to current element, and the dB is inversely proportional to the square of the distance, and dB, magnetic field, directly proportional to the sine of the angle between the current element and the position vector R, that is B directly proportional to sine theta. If we combine the three points, we can write dB is directly proportional to IDL sine theta by R square. Or if you equate, you put some constant. So you replace the proportional with mu naught by 4 pi is a constant. So dB equal to mu naught by 4 pi IDL sine theta by R square. In vector form, this is a magnitude. How much of magnetic field? Magnitude of the magnetic field is calculated by using the expression dB equal to mu naught by 4 pi IDL sine theta by R square. But what's the direction? See, magnetic field is a vector quantity. So you should write that vector form. So what's the vector form of the Biot-Savart law? dB vector equal to mu naught by 4 pi. Very simple, IDL cross R vector by R cube. Next one, we can extend this idea to the Ampere circular law. It's Ampere circular law. The line integral of magnetic field around a closed loop. But here, in the case of Biot-Savart law, we consider only a straight conductor. Magnetic field produced by the straight conductor. But the Ampere circuit law, suppose if you imagine the straight conductor is bent and you form a loop. For this case, what is a magnetic field? What is the magnetic field produced by the circular loop? Current carrying circular loop. Got it? So the line integral of magnetic field around a closed loop equals mu naught times the total current passing through the surface enclosed by the loop. Total current passing through the surface enclosed by the loop. Clear? So this is a way they are obtaining, they gave the concept. Next one, I told you when the charge move in a magnetic field that experience a force, that is called Lorentz force. Based on that, they designed the device cyclotron. See, you can see that the cyclotron is asked in the board 2016, 15, 14, 13, 9, 7, 11, 9. See, they are asking in all the board question. Okay, anyway, what's the question? Draw a neat labeled diagram of a cyclotron. State the underlying principle of cyclotron so that the time period of ions in cyclotron is independent of both speed of ion and radius of circular path. Also obtain an expression for minimum kinetic energy gained by the particle. See, in one question they are asking 4 subdivisions. One is draw the diagram, second one principle, third one derive the expression for the period of cyclotron, next one obtain expression for the maximum kinetic energy. So these are the questions asked in a single question. Sometimes they will ask in 1 mark question or 2 mark question. So anyway, you can see the diagram first. I hope you are all familiar the diagram. Am I right? There is, you consider the 2 D's are there. Do hollow metal. This looks like a English letter D, so that is called D's. 2 D's are there, which is placed in a strong magnetic field, and you place a charge between the 2 D's. What will happen? And also the 2 D's are connected with a oscillator, high frequency oscillator. What is the use of high frequency oscillator? Which is used to change the polarity of the magnetic field. Am I right? Now, what happens if you change the magnetic polarity? Means the charge will attracted by D, any one of the D, and they will move in the magnetic field. What happens? I told you, charge particle move in a magnetic field that experience a force, so that the charge particle move in a semicircular path in 1 D's, and they come out from the D. What happens? Immediately change the polarity by the oscillator, so automatically the charge is attracted by the another D, and here also the second D, inside the second D, what happens? The charge experiences a force, so they will move in a circular path, right? And they come out from the second D. Automatically the polarity will change by the oscillator, so the charge will attack by the first D. So in the same way, the charge move in first and second D continuously, right? They move in a semicircular path, but only condition, each and every time they increase their radius, not in a same path. The radius increases. What's the meaning of radius increases? Very simple. Radius increases is nothing but each and every stage the charge acquire energy. I mean, the energy of the charge is increases, or they are moving with a high velocity. In the same way, they are acquiring energy and they move with a high velocity. High velocity is nothing but they are moving with a high energy. So finally they will come with a high energy particle or accelerated charged particle. So this is an experiment, you familiar. Here they asked only diagram. First of all, you draw the diagram. 2 D's are there. 2 D's are connected with the oscillator, which is placed in a strong magnetic field. There is a one exit point is there. The exit point is used to, what's that? The high energy charge particle will come through the path, that is the exit point. And also you see the charge is placed at the at the center of the, between the two D's. Between the two D's. This is a diagram, first of all, see. And then they asked what's the principle. It's a device used to accelerate the charged particle, I told you, or ions to very high energies. Accelerate or to very high energies. And principle, that's a principle. A charged particle can be accelerated to a very high energy by making it to pass through a small region of oscillating electric field again and again with the help of strong perpendicular magnetic field. This is a principle. Working, I told you, due to the electric field, particle enters in a D where it moves along a circular path due to normal magnetic field. At the moment particle comes out of D, the polarity of the D's get reversed and particle is further accelerated to enter another D and follows a circular path of larger radius with a high speed. This process goes on continuously till the particle acquires sufficient speed and it takes out with the help of deflection plates. That is, see, in this case, you can see the magnetic field is equal to centripetal force. Centripetal force. Magnetic field is equal to centripetal force. Why? Because they move in a semicircular path. So we can write the equation BQV equal to mv square by r. mv square by r. From the equation you can derive the equation that r equal to r equal to mv by qb, or we can write time period, that is 2 pi r by v, that is equal to 2 pi m by qb. Is a time period. What's the frequency? Frequency nothing but reciprocal of its time period, that's 1 by t. You can write the equation qb by 2 pi m. Hence the time period or cyclotron frequency is independent of both the speed of ions and radius of circular path. Independent of the speed and also radius. Why? Because in the equation no r and no v. V and r is not present in the frequency equation. So that is independent. Clear? What's the maximum energy? For maximum velocity, right? For maximum velocity, we have the condition BQV naught equal to mv naught square by r naught, or we can write v naught equal to BQ r naught by m. So energy equal to what's the formula of mv square from the v naught. See, v naught is derived BQ r by m. You substitute. Finally, you can get what's that? 1 by 2 m into BQ r naught by m the whole square. You can get what's that? Energy equal to q square b square r naught square by 2m. So this is the way they will ask the question. Next one, explain clearly the role of crossed electric and magnetic field in accelerating charge in cyclotron. It's very simple. Explain clearly the role of crossed electric and magnetic field in accelerating charge in cyclotron. What is the answer? The thing is, electric field, it is used to accelerate the charge particle, but magnetic field, it is used to restrict the particle to move in a circular path. So this is the way they are using electric field as well as magnetic field. Where do the electric and magnetic field exist in cyclotron? Write about their nature. I have told already, electric field exists between the D's, right? And D, it is alternating in nature. But magnetic field, it exists both inside and outside the D's, and it is constant, that means uniform in nature. Okay, next question. What is a resonance condition in cyclotron? Is very important question. What is a resonance condition in cyclotron? How is it used to accelerate the charged particle? Is charged particle accelerated only at the condition of resonance. So what is the resonance condition? See, the thing is, resonance condition is nothing but frequency of oscillating electric field must be equal to the frequency of revolution of charged particle. That is a resonance. The both frequencies are equal. What are both frequencies? One is frequency of the oscillating electric field. Second one is frequency of the revolution of the charged particle. When the two things are equal, what happens? The resonance condition attained. At the resonance condition only, the charged particle get more energy. So due to it, charged particle remain in phase with the frequency of the applied voltage and accelerated to high speed. Next question. What is the requirement of the frequency of applied voltage? What is the requirement of the frequency of the applied voltage so as to ensure that the ions got accelerated across the gap of the D's in cyclotron? See, the frequency of oscillating electric field must be equal to frequency of revolution of charged particle. So next question. In cyclotron, time period of ions is independent of both the speed of ion and radius of circular path. What is the significance of this property? That means it helps in achieving resonance condition. This condition is used for achieve the resonance condition. Due to it, particle remains in phase with the frequency of applied voltage. Next one. Is there an upper limit on the energy acquired by the particle? Give reason. When the charged particle move in a path of radius equal to that of D's, it gains maximum speed and hence maximum energy, which cannot be further increased. Yes, when they attain the maximum energy, after that we cannot increase the energy. They will attain only a maximum energy. Hence, there is an upper limit on the energy acquired by the charged particle in a cyclotron. Clear? Next one. Can we accelerate neutrons by cyclotron? Very important question. Can we accelerate neutrons by cyclotron? Give reason to your answer. See, the neutrons cannot be accelerated by the cyclotron. So answer is no. What's the reason? Neutrons cannot be accelerated by using cyclotron because being neutral, neutrons will not experience electric or magnetic force. So it cannot move in a magnetic field. Clear? So ions only can accelerate in the accelerator, that is cyclotron. Okay. Next one. A neutron, an electron and alpha particle move with equal velocities, enter in a uniform magnetic field going into the plane of paper as shown in the diagram. Trace their path in the field and justify your answers. See, neutron, electron and alpha particle move in a uniform magnetic field. What happened? Now only we discuss neutron, What happened? Neutron cannot move in a magnetic field. Why? Because no force, neutral charge cannot experience any force. But here what is electron and a proton? Alpha particle. See, direction of force experienced by the particle will be according to Fleming's left hand rule. See that alpha particle move in upward direction, the neutron that is in a straight line, there is no undeflected, and electron move in downward direction. And next one, a proton and an alpha particle move perpendicular to the magnetic field. Find the ratio of radii of circular path described by them. One condition, when both have equal momenta, and second condition, both were accelerated through the same potential difference. So first question very simple. What's the radius? First of all, r equal to mv by qb. You know that mv is nothing but p, momentum. So q by p by qb, where r is inversely proportional to q. So we can write rp by r alpha. Proton and alpha. Radius for proton and radius for alpha particle. That is given by q alpha by qp, or we can write 2 qp by qp. You know that. So we can write 2. It's a ratio of radii of the alpha proton and alpha particle. Second one, r equal to mv by qb, or we can write 1 by b is a constant. We can write square root of 2 mv by q, or we can write mp by q square root of mp by qp into q alpha by m alpha. So we can write m square root of mp, mass of the proton, by qp, charge of the proton, into 2 qp by 4 mp, that is nothing but 1 by root 2. So this is a second case. Next one, a proton and an alpha particle move perpendicular to the magnetic field. Find the ratio of radii of the circular path described by them when both have equal velocity and equal kinetic energy. So the first one they asked equal momentum. Second one, in the first question they asked equal momentum and potential, but here they asked, suppose the condition both are having velocity and equal kinetic energy. What happened? The same thing, same question, very simple. R equal to mv by qb. So we can write R is directly proportional to m by q, or rp by r alpha equal to mp by qp into q alpha by m alpha. So finally you can write what is that? mp by qp into 2 qp by 4 mp, that is equal to 1 by 2. And second one, r equal to mv by qb, that is equal to 1 by qb into square root of 2m ek. What is square root of 2m ek? That is from the de Broglie equation, right? We can write mv equal to what is that? mv is nothing but square root of 2m ek, and then can derive the equation rp by r alpha equal to q alpha by qp, then into square root of mp by m alpha, that is equal to 2 qp by qp in square root of mp by 4 mp, that is equal to 1. And next one, two identical coil p and q, each of radius r, are lying in perpendicular planes such that they have a common center. Find the magnitude and direction of magnetic field at the common center of the two coils if they carry current equal to I and root 3I respectively. You consider the diagram first of all. Two coils P and Q are perpendicular to each other, right? What's the question? The question is Alright, find the magnitude and direction of the magnetic field. First of all, you know magnetic field formula. That means B, P. For the case of P, I mean coil P, BP equals mu naught I by 2R. And what is magnetic direction due to coil Q? That is given by mu naught root 3 I by 2R. That is BP into root 3. What's the total? I mean, find the magnitude and direction. There's a two magnetic field be there. So, what's the total magnetic field? That is magnetic field that is given by B equal to square root of BP square plus BQ square. Then we can substitute the value square root of BP square plus BP into root 3 the whole square. So, what do you get? The total magnetic field, that is B equal to BP into square root of 1 plus 3. That is nothing but 2 into mu naught I by 2R, or we can write mu naught I by R. From the equation, we can calculate the theta. So, it's a tan theta. You know that tan theta equal to BP by BQ. BP, you know that BP by what's it? BQ. That is a BP in root 3. BP cancelled out. So, 1 by root 3. 1 by root 3 is nothing but what's that? Theta equal to 30 degree. This is a direction of the magnetic field. Clear? And next one, using Biot-Savart law, deduce expression for the magnetic field at a point X and the axis of circular current carrying loop of radius R. How is the direction of the magnetic field determined at this point? It's also very simple. You know, you familiar with the diagram from the Biot-Savart law. We can derive the expression. The magnetic field due to a current carrying loop at a point on its axis, according to Biot-Savart law, that is dB equal to mu naught by 4 pi into I dl sin theta by r square, but theta equal 90 degree. So finally you can write sin 90 equal to 1. So dB equal mu naught by 4 pi I dl by r square. Resolving dB, I mean the magnetic direction resolved into two components, one is vertical and another one horizontal component. Here the resultant magnetic field at P equal to what's it? B equal to integral dB sin phi, or we can write integral mu naught by 4 pi I dl by r square sin phi. Finally you can write mu naught by 4 pi 1 by r square sin phi integral dl. So integral dl is nothing but that circumference of the circle. You can write 2 pi r. Finally you can write mu naught by 4 pi 1 by r square into r by small r 2 pi r. Finally you can get mu naught by 4 pi I r by r cube into 2 pi r, or we can write mu naught I r square by 2 into r square plus x square whole power 3 by 2. That means small r is nothing but r square plus x square. Clear? So finally, suppose the coil having n turns, you just add one n to the equation, that is given by B equal to mu naught n I r square by 2 into r square plus x square the whole power 3 by 2. So the direction of the magnetic field can be determined by the right hand thumb rule. This is a magnitude and direction can be calculated. Next one, the same thing already we discussed. One more time they asked what is it? Two identical circular loop 1 and 2. Here named as a 1 and 2, but in earlier we discussed only P and Q. The same thing, carrying same current and kept in a perpendicular plane such that they have the common center P as on the diagram. Find the magnitude and direction of the net magnetic field. You know that B1 equal to B2, am I right? They told that. So you can write mu naught I r square by 2 into r square plus x square the whole power 3 by 2. But here B equal to total magnetic field B1 square plus B2 square. Can add this one, that is not that B1 into square root of the square root 2. Square root of 2. So finally we can write B1 already derived mu naught I r square by 2 into r square plus x square the whole power 3 by 2 into root 2. So finally we can write what is the tan theta Bx by By. Am I right? I mean B1 by B2, that is given by, that is equal to 1. So theta equal to 45 degree. So this is the way you can calculate the angle. Next one, derive an expression for the force per unit length between the two infinitely long straight parallel current carrying conductor. Hence define SI unit of current. It's also very simple. You see the diagram, there's a two current carrying conductor, infinitely long straight conductor 1 and 2. The current I1 passes through the first conductor, right? I2 flows through the conductor second conductor. The distance between the two conductor will be R. If the current flows through first conductor, that produces a magnetic field. So now we consider the second conductor is placed in the magnetic field of first one. Suppose the current flows through second conductor, the second conductor produces a magnetic field. If you imagine the conductor 1 is placed in the magnetic field of the first conductor. Am I right? See B1, what's that? Mu naught I1 by 2 pi r. By right hand rule, B1 will act perpendicular to the conductor 2 and into the plane of the paper. So due to the magnetic field, force on length L of wire 2, that is F21, is nothing but B1 I2 L sin theta, where theta equal 90 degree. So mu naught I1 by 2 pi r I2 into L. Suppose if you write F21 equal to that, mu naught I1 I2 L by 2 pi r. Similarly, force on length L of the wire 1. First one, force on the second conductor. Now you can derive what's the force on the first conductor due to second one. So here also same way, F12 equal to B2 I1 L sin 90, or mu naught I2 by 2 pi r into I1 L, that is given by mu naught I1 I2 L by 2 pi r. So F21 is equal to F12. So finally you can write mu naught I1 I2 L by 2 pi r equal to F. Hence force per unit length, that is L divided by F, just you keep the L to the left side. So F by L is nothing but mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi r. By Fleming's left hand rule, F21 will act towards the conductor 1 and F12 will act towards the conductor 2. Obviously the conductor will attract each other, right? If the current are in opposite direction, there will be a repulsion between the two conductors. So another question they will ask, suppose when the current flows through the conductor same direction, what happen? Or opposite direction, what happen? If the same direction means it's attractive force acted between the two conductors. If the current flowing through the conductors are opposite direction, the repulsive force acted. 1 ampere. So based on that, how do we define 1 ampere? 1 ampere is the current which, when flowing through each of two infinite long straight parallel conductor placed 1 meter apart from each other in free space, will exert a force of 2 into 10 power minus 7 Newton per meter of their length. So next one, how will you convert the galvanometer into ammeter as well as voltmeter? The thing is, how is galvanometer converted into voltmeter and an ammeter? Draw the relevant diagram and find the resistance of the arrangement in each case. Take resistance of galvanometer as G. See, you see the diagram first of all, and the galvanometer is converted into ammeter by connect the resistance parallel to the galvanometer. From the diagram, see the resistor, a shunt resistance, that is a resistance called a shunt, just connected parallel to the galvanometer. So this is the way you can convert the galvanometer into ammeter. Suppose if you connect the resistance with the galvanometer in series connection, that is a technique to convert the galvanometer into voltmeter. Anyway, first of all, you see the resistance connected parallel to the galvanometer. This is a technique for converting galvanometer into ammeter. for this case, you know already, if the two resistors are parallel, what happen? I mean, the currents are equal, right? Currents are equal. I mean, I minus Ig into S, that is equal to Ig into G, right? You know that if the two resistors are in parallel, what happens? The condition is, what is that? Current in resistance. What is the current in resistance? V equal IR. Potentials are same. The condition is already familiar. The resistors in series and parallel. When the resistors are in series, resistors are in parallel, where the potentials are same. So what's the potential in S? What's the potential in galvanometer? What's the potential in S? Current into resistance. What's the current? I minus Ig into resistance S. What's the potential in galvanometer? Current flowing through the galvanometer is Ig into what is the resistance? G. So we can write S equal to Ig into G by I minus Ig. So effective resistance of the ammeter, that is given by, it's a parallel connection. You know that formula, what is that? 1 by Rp. I mean, parallel means 1 by Rp equal to 1 by R1 plus 1 by R2. But here you can write 1 by Ra equal to 1 by S plus 1 by G. Finally, you can write what is 1 Ra equal to Sg by S plus G, where Ra is lesser than G always. Next one, conversion of galvanometer, just opposite to the first case. Now the galvanometer can be converted into voltmeter by connecting very high resistance in series. Now the resistors are that, if you consider two resistors, 2G and R are in series, so currents are equal, right? In the first case, potentials are equal, but here currents are equal. Or we can write V equal to, what's the formula? Potential equal to, what's the formula? Current into resistance, where Ig into R plus G, or what is they asked only a resistance R. So what's R? Rearrange equation. R equal to V by Ig minus G. The effective resistance of the voltmeter. What's the effective resistance? They both are in series connection. Series connection means you know that Rs equal to R1 plus R2. You know the formula. So you can apply here. What's it? Total resistance given by sum of the resistance of the resistor and resistance of the galvanometer, R plus G. Here Rv is greater than G always. Next one, an ammeter of resistance 0.8 ohm can measure current up to 1.0 ampere. What must be value of shunt resistance to enable the ammeter to measure the current up to 5 ampere? Second one, what is the combined resistance of the ammeter and shunt? So what is the resistance to be added for measuring the current of 5 ampere? That is a question. For you know that S equal to Ig into G by I minus Ig. Here Ig, that is the current, 1 ampere current flows there, 1 into G. What is the resistance of the galvanometer? 0.8 divided by I minus Ig. The total current I, but the current flows through the galvanometer, 1 ampere, 5 minus 1. That is equal to 0.2 ohm. So you have to add 0.2 ohm as a shunt resistance. It is used for calculate the 5 ampere current. The second case, what is that? Combined resistance. Combined resistance of ammeter. What is the combined resistance? Already did the equation. Ra equal to Sg by S plus G. You know that Sg apply. What is that? 0.2 into 0.8 divided by 0.2 plus 0.8. That is equal to 0.16 ohm. So this is the total resistance offered in the ammeter. A galvanometer. Next question. A galvanometer with the coil of resistance 12 ohm shows full scale deflection for a current 2.5 milliampere. How will you convert the meter into ammeter of a range 0 to 7.5 ampere? The second one, voltmeter of a range 0 to 10.0 volts. You can solve this. Okay, next one, define the term magnetic dipole moment of a current loop. What is the magnetic moment of the current loop? Magnetic moment of the current loop is defined as product of current and area enclosed by the current, that is M equal to I into E. Next one, write two properties of material. Write two properties of material suitable for making permanent magnet and electromagnet. For making permanent magnet, can use high retentivity, high coercivity, high permeability. For making electromagnet, high permeability, low retentivity, low coercivity. Then draw the magnetic field lines distinguishing between diamagnet and paramagnetic material. Give a simple explanation to account for the difference in magnetic behavior of these materials. One is explanation. You see the diagram. In the case of diamagnet, the field lines are excluded, but in the case of paramagnet, the lines can penetrate through this through it. So, what's the explanation? When a diamagnetic material is placed in an external field, the atoms acquire net magnetic moment opposite to the field, and the magnetic material acquires a slight magnetism in the opposite direction of the field. Hence, magnetic field lines are repelled or expelled. When the paramagnetic material placed in the external magnetic field and atomic magnet align themselves along a field direction, and material acquires a magnetism in the direction of the field. So, the magnetic field lines are attracted. And next one, see, you can see the one more question. Name the three elements of Earth's magnetic field. Name the three elements of Earth's magnetic field. One is magnetic declination. Second one is angle of dip or magnetic inclination. Third one, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. These are the elements. Next one, what is the angle of dip at equator? Always the angle of dip is in equator is 0. What is the angle of dip at the magnetic poles? See, just opposite. First they asked the equator. In the case of poles means opposite. What is it? 90 degree. How does angle of dip varies from equator to poles? Angle of dip increases from 0 to 90 on moving from equator to poles. And next one, where on the surface of Earth is angle of dip 0? See, just the same question they are asking in different way. Already know that. I mean, angle of dip 0 means what is it? That is the equator only. Where on the surface of Earth is angle of dip 90 degree? You know that. That is a poles. Where on the Earth's surface is the value of angle of dip minimum and maximum? Same question. What's the maximum is 90 degree, right? So at the equator, theta equal to 0, but at the poles, what's it? Theta equal to 90 degree, maximum or minimum. Where on the surface of Earth is vertical component of Earth's magnetic field is 0. That means at equator only 0. Why? Because what's the reason? At equator, del equal to 0, but here BV equal to B sin del, or we can write B sin 0. Sin 0, 0, 0 and everything 0. So that is a minimum. That is a 0. And next one, what will be the value of horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at the Earth's geometric poles? What will be the value of the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at Earth's geometric pole? That is pole mean or that? That is a 0. Why? Because at poles theta equal 90 degree. We can write BH equal to Z. BE cos del equal 90 degree. Cos 90 is 0. 0 to everything 0. Next one, a small magnet is pivoted to move freely in the magnetic meridian. At what place on the surface of the Earth will be magnet be vertical? Only at the poles. Vertical means that you know the condition, that is the poles. Next one, a magnetic needle free to rotate in a vertical plane orient itself vertically at a certain place on Earth. What are the values of angle of dip at the place? And next one, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field. First one, what is the angle of dip? That is theta equal to 90 degree. Second one, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field, that is BH equal to BE cos del. So apply the cos 90 0. So that magnetic component, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field will be 0. Next one, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at a plane. Horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at a place is BH and angle of dip is 60 degree. What is the value of vertical component of Earth's magnetic field at equator? 0. Why? Because at equator del equal to 0. So BV equals at BH tan theta, where tan 0, 0, 0 and everything 0. So this is the way they are asking question. Next one, what is the angle of dip at a place where the horizontal and vertical component of Earth's magnetic field are equal? Same way, BV equal to BH. If we equate tan del equal to what's that? BV by BH equal to 1. So del equal to 45 degree. And the next one, horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at a place is root 3 times the vertical component. What is the value of angle of dip at this place? You know that the root 3 times means what's that? You can convert into angle. It's very simple. BH equal to root 3 times of BV, or we can write what's that? Tan del equal to BV by BH, that is 1 by root 3. 1 by root 3 is nothing but del equal to 30 degree. Am I right? Next one, the vertical component of Earth's magnetic field at a place is root 3 times the horizontal component. What is the value of angle of dip at the place? See, same model. You can write BV equal to root 3 times of BH, or tan del equal to BV by BH, that is root 3. Here root 3. So what's the root 3? Root 3 corresponds to angle, what's it? 60 degree. And last question, at a place the horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field is B and the angle of dip is 60 degree. What is the value of horizontal component of Earth's magnetic field at equator? See, here you can write in the first case BH equal to B, or del equal to 60 degree. Second, BH equal to BE, what's that? Cos del, where B equal to BH by cos del, or we can write B by cos 60 degree. Cos 60 1 by 2, that is 2B. Right, now you know BH and you calculate the what's it? BH. In the second case, at the equator del equal to 0. So BH equal to what's that? BE cos del, or we can write 2B cos theta, that is equal to 2B. So this is the answer. Okay. Finally, I hope you all understand the concept, and also I hope you may learn how to write the answer for the different type of questions. The concept is same, but they are asking different way. Right? If you know the concept clearly, you can write any question in any direction. Am I right? Thank you. I will come with another video with another lesson. Okay. Thank you.